Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a stat special for Anfield Index. I'm Dave Davies coming to you from a pretty sunny, actually, Edinburgh, where it looks quite nice, but it's not actually that warm. And I know everyone is thinking, and their thoughts are drifting towards this huge game, aren't they? The second leg against PSG at Anfield under the lights, taking a 1-0 lead into this one. Seeing reactions seems to be a mix of massive excitement and massive nerves, which is great. That's what European big ties under the lights at Anfield should be, shouldn't it? So there's a lot to look forward to. The only sad point is, as me and Bart's tried to do Stat Me Up last night, and we did, but apparently there's been sound issues, so we've not managed to release this. And unfortunately, we're looking to try and give you an abridged version is what I would call it today. And I know Bart's is capable of emotions that I'm not, such as empathy and apology. So I know we wanted to extend that to you. But what we want to do for you guys is, ahead of this big game tonight, which kicks off in just under 8 hours' time as I'm speaking now, talk about the key stats that we did call out on Stat Me Up. So we'll give you the headlines and we'll go through them one by one. One of the big things we really looked at last night was PSG's last game. Because if you think our run into this was Southampton, bit of rotation, 45 minutes for certain players. But what about PSG? What did they do specifically? Well, they actually, to be fair, dismantled a team that we know very well. 4-1 victory over Lille at home. Now, if you're thinking, Lille, do we know them? Yeah, if you remember, we played them in the Champions League stages where Harvey Elliott's deflected winner was the difference. They also had Jonathan David score a late goal. But the big difference here, the game was done by half-time. Look at that, 4-1. All four of PSG goals scored by the 37th minute. And there's some familiar names there, isn't it? No two ways about it. Barcola, Dembele, Young-Doué. If you remember, he came off the bench in that first leg, put that curler right into the corner, which Alisson just about reached with one of the many magnificent saves he produced on that night. But yeah, they were well up for it this weekend. Let's not pretend. And if you look a bit at their lineup from this weekend, just worth pointing out who maybe had their minutes managed, should we say. Hakimi only played about an hour, so did Nuno Mendes. So those are the two fullbacks naturally going to start and have got fuel in the tank for tonight. João Neves only played about an hour, so did Dembele, one of their big danger men as well. If you look at the bench, two other stars, Kavicha and Vitinha, only played about half an hour. So when you look at this lineup and you think of who's going to play, also Pacho, a player we were linked with at one stage, he played the first leg as well. It is important to say they are well rested for this. And you'd expect this anyway. And I know people are going to say things like Farmers League, of course, they're rested, an easier tie. Lille isn't an easier tie. Lille did okay in those group stages. Let's be crystal clear on that. So to dismantle them 4-1 and be 4-0 up at half-time and have the game done, there's a bit of an impressiveness to that. So, yeah, they're coming into it quite confident, I think it's fair to say. And so they should after their first leg performance. And it's the first leg that I want to go back to as well. I mean, if you look at the headline numbers from this first leg, smash and grab job, wasn't it? Harvey Elliott from a Darwin Núñez assist in the first leg. Maybe there was something even more beautiful about that against a relentless PSG, who, if we look at these headline numbers, enjoyed 65% of possession in that first leg. And field tilt, which me and Bart's always talk about, not far off 80-20. Yeah, absolutely dominant. I think we know that where they spent most of the game. Shots on target, they had 9. We needed an Alisson masterclass, didn't we? R1, the Harvey bit of magic. Something sweet to that. But if you think about shots overall, 27 they had, 11 inside the box, 16 outside. And the XG stats that we always talk about as well, 1.83 to our 0.28. I mean, as the headline metrics called out that me and Bart's talked about, we were dominated, weren't we? It's fair to say that. It's just sometimes you either take your chances or you don't. And they had chances. And they also met a magnificent man between the sticks called Alisson, who maybe produces debatable the best goalkeeper performance I can remember. But if you just look at the pure headline stats, absolutely dominated there. The half is important to mention as well, because if you look at the XG in the first half, they're moving at 1.43. Now, we know Arne Slot is good at the second half, making changes, making tactical tweaks, if you want to call them that. Look at what we've reduced their XG to in the second half, 0.4. That doesn't mean it was without danger. Alisson, if you remember, had to almost scoop a few crosses out that were coming into the box. There's that one, as he said, from Doué, where he tips it round the post. There was the free kick as well. So it wasn't without danger, but minded that a few subs, and the more subs we made, and I'll talk about those particularly, it made a difference to how the game went on. And PSG kept trying to do things like Barcola came off, so Doué came on. But something to note, especially if we can get into that second half, don't dismiss Arne Slot and how he can even work a great team like PSG out, who, let's be honest, are the best team we've faced so far this season. Now, some key stats for you. If we look at the pass map, and this is important to call out for PSG, a lot of it is centrally. They were absolutely dominant with the ball. And you look at the numbers there of the players in the middle, like Neves, like Vitinha, like Fabian Ruiz, absolutely dominant there. And Dembele floating all around the place as well. But if you almost throw a net round that, you will notice it is pretty much in the central areas, isn't it? That's where they play a lot of that football. Keep that in mind. And I know someone's going to scream, well, what about the time Dembele went wide and skinned two of our players? Yes, can always happen. Kavicha alternating flanks, Dembele moving across, and interchange across the front line. Yes, I am not debating that at all. But as that pass map shows there that Bart's created, the dominance of their main players through the middle. So keep that ultimately in mind. And even the second half, if you look, it's still exactly the same, isn't it? It's all central. And in fact, everything is almost coming through that middle area. So it is something I think the middle period or the middle part of the game that Arne Slot will be aware of, particularly. Players are important to talk about. They've got so many threats, and we can name them all. We could talk about Kavicha, Barcola, their pace, their skill, the ability, the shots they had, the goals they maybe should have scored, the disallowed goal for Kavicha, all absolutely vital, how good their fullbacks are, etc. There's a million different players we can refer to. The middle of their pitch, Vitinha, Neves, Fabian Ruiz. Don't underestimate just how important Fabian Ruiz is, but also Vitinha. Vitinha really is the danger man. I mean, if you look here, attempted passes during this game, 113, well above anyone else if you look there. Everything is going through him, largely. If you look at his completed passes as well, 108 and 95.6% pass conversion. So he is their metronome. He's making it tick for them. And in fact, a while ago when we were looking at replacements for Thiago when Vitinha was at Porto, I know we looked at him for his potential, and he is a real shining star in this team. He is a real danger man. It can't be ignored. And you see there as well, from midfield, those final third passes. Yes, it's higher for Hakimi because he is that fullback overlapping, but just from the middle third, he is a huge danger. There's no two ways about it. And if you look at his EPV, 12.3 of his sides. There's only Dembele who's higher. He's higher than actually both fullbacks, Vitinha. He is a real danger man in the middle. We talked about how they play through the middle. He is their metronome, as we said. So we've got to keep that in mind. If we look at his passing connections as well, I think this just really illustrates it more than anything. It's so well-rounded. 11 connections with Hakimi, 15 with Neves, his midfield partner, 18 back and forth to Marquinhos in the middle, 16 to the left back as well. William Pacho, who plays on the left-hand side there of the defence. So you see, it literally is moving that ball all around the pitch into all areas. Yeah, even 8 to Dembele. So he does advance it. He is so important for them. And if you look at touches and various things, I mean, at 131, he's top there. Middle third, 66% of his touches come in the middle third. I keep using that word, don't I? The middle. It's so important, as the stats tell us. This game may be decided by, can Liverpool get a grip on that PSG middle third and those midfield players? And especially, and Neves and Ruiz are brilliant players, Vitinha. Can they stop him being that metronome? And even if you look at as well, it's not just passing, by the way, 88 carries, more than anyone else in midfield and defence. So he moves with the ball as well around that middle third. And he has an impact. Look at his duels, 6 out of 8, 75%. This was a brilliant performance by him. There's no two ways about it. And a large part of our game is just going to come down tonight to, can we get a hold of Vitinha and stop him dictating that middle area? He's not the only threat, however. I mean, there's many, but if you talk about this player as well, Dembele, I thought he was brilliant during this. 28 goals for this season, 6 assists, so 34 goal contributions, playing 9 largely, but interchanging, it's important to say, with the others at the same time. Now, if you look at Dembele's headline stats from this, I mean, unbelievable. He actually has, as we say, the highest EPV, 18.6% of his teams there as well. And I'm trying to think of that. He had a good chance, didn't he, where Alisson saved at his feet there. So the shots are probably a good one to call out from him. 8 in total he had, and on target 2. Maybe, just maybe, that's where he'll be disappointed. But yeah, 18.6% of his team's threat, their EPV. A danger man, the goals as well. Now, there was one other key, there we go, for Dembele. He is a dribbler, he's a progressive player, and he has a shot. There's not too many passing connections there. So 7 for Hakimi, 8 for Neves, Kavicha 7, but also, as we said, those two men, Vitinha and Dembele. We've got to stop Vitinha playing, and we've got to stop those two linking up at the same time. Now, I understand as I'm saying this, people are going to be going, what about Kavicha, Dave? What about Neves? What about Barcola? Yes, all threats. We are not debating that for one single second. What we are saying, though, is if you can negate these two largely, they are so key in PSG's play. And here's the other area. If we talk about sort of their carries that they have, if you look at Dembele there, huge numbers, 32 carries. Like we say, he runs with the ball. His success rate for those is absolutely huge. And also, maybe surprise you, but only 33% in that final third area. They are just deadly. And even if for his dual success, 5 out of 6, we just couldn't link with him at all. Oh, someone's saying the sound cut out there. So hopefully, my apologies, that is back and you can see it there. And I'm really hoping, because there is a few things that I do want to share with you still, really importantly. So those are the 2 players that I would really highlight. You see the stats, you see the metrics there. It's so important we keep a grip of those players. I think it comes down largely to who's in the middle. And what I mean by that is a lot of this side picks itself, doesn't it? It's Alisson in goal, Trent Robbo at the fullbacks, Ibu and Virgil in the middle. In the middle third, you were fully expecting to see Grav, Mac, Szoboszlai. Completely expecting to see those 3. Salah, no doubt. I actually think with Gakpo's recent injuries coming back into the squad, I think you'll see Luis Diaz, just because for his pure energy, pace, is tracking back that way. So it kind of leaves for me one position, and it comes down to one person in the middle. There'll be a clamour for Darwin Núñez because of his recent form. His goal, winning the penalty, the assist the game before in the first leg. So there'll be a clamour of him and his pace, thinking with PSG and the way they play man for man, can we drive them backwards? That will be an important consideration. Diogo Jota struggled really badly in the first leg, and we'll look at a few stats for him shortly as well. It wasn't a good game for many, but Diogo Jota, especially in duels, holding the ball, really struggled, which then leaves, does he play four midfielders? Does he go with Curtis Jones playing almost the two false nines? Does he look to pack the middle that way? Now, Darwin, as we say, recent, gets a great assist in this, composure, great game at the weekend. I think we know what we get if Darwin plays. There's not too much to focus on that we don't already know. If we look at Diogo Jota in this first leg, and it's not been a good recent period for him. He seems to have struggled. I mean, only 6% of the EPV there against Núñez's 5.3, and we know the difference in minutes was startling there between the two, so that's something to consider. And if I move down to Jota's duels and a few other things to call out, I mean, you always think Diogo Jota's good in the air, don't you? And he is. But out of his 5, he won no aerial duels at all. On the ground, he won 3 out of 6, half. So out of 11 duels in total, Diogo Jota won 3. 3 out of 11. In a game where you might need to battle hard and really try and overpower PSG, I just wonder if that is a consideration. And here's where I would go for this personally. Curtis Jones, who's been sensational in Europe so far this season, brilliant against Leverkusen at Anfield, brilliant against Real Madrid and the likes of Camavinga, Modric. He's proven he belongs on this stage. And maybe there's a suggestion that Curtis Jones is almost a better in European football, shall we say, the domestic for some. But if you just look at some of his headline stats here, and I've gone too far, so let me just get up to the passing bit here as well, especially for Curtis. Not on the field for too long, 28 minutes, but in those 28 minutes, 13 passes, 12 successful. So 92.3% pass success. We know how well Curtis keeps the ball. One of the ways you can stop Vitinha and stop that middle of PSG, stop it at source before it gets to Dembele and Konvicha, is dominate the middle. And if you've got a midfielder that keeps the ball well in the middle, it's just something to think about there, isn't it? That is, I'd say, Curtis's key attribute at the same time. If we talk about a few other bits, such as his carries and duels, it doesn't look great. You'd say 1 out of 6. Hold on, that's only 17%. But even in a short period, he's competing. He's getting involved in those duels. I think that's really important to call out. And even this one, if you look at his touches, 60% of those are in the middle third. 60% in the middle third. Who did we say about needing to control in the middle third? I just think personally, and me and Bart's kind of discussed this a little bit on Stat Me Up, the 4-2-4, the 2 false nines, playing all 4 midfielders with that atmosphere, the pressure on PSG. This is not the Parc des Princes anymore. You can maybe stop it at source through Vitinha and Neves to stop the ball getting to your Konvichas, Dembele's, Barcolas. You'll never stop it completely, but you can change the game to something completely different. So just what we looked at. Russell Stubley there saying, yeah, I hope we start better than the last 2 games we played. We have been so flat in the last 2 games. And I think Saturday was a bit of a strange one, wasn't it? We talked about that a little when we did the first part, that maybe it's not always complacency, tiredness, maybe it's a mix of the two, but they stepped it up where they needed to. The first leg, as we talked about, Russell, well, smash and grab by its very definition, isn't it? So there we go. Those were the key call-outs from Stat Me Up and things it's worth flagging to you ahead of this game at 8 p.m. If you can stop it at source, if you can stop Vitinha dictating that game, it could be crucial tonight. Maybe then you can stop the impact or lessen the impact of Dembele, especially, but Barcola, Vitinha, and the others. Maybe, just maybe, the fourth man in midfield could be the real difference. Not that Nunes couldn't do a job and just push them backwards from that man for man. Not that Jota couldn't do a job, because he can play a bit deeper potentially. But for me and Bart, I think we both looked at Curtis Jones as the man in the middle that could just be the difference. We'll have to see, though. This is a PSG team that's the best we've played this season. This is a PSG team that's won 4-1 against a good Ville side at the weekend. This is a PSG team that hasn't felt the magic at Anfield, that hasn't buckled under those lights yet, that hasn't felt that wall of sound envelop them yet. Just wait until 8 p.m. and they'll feel it. But there we go, ladies and gents. On Tuesday, 11th of March, that was a stats special for Anfield Index.